Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to the Wrestling Wow Roundtable interviews. I'm here with the one and only Mr. Herman Cade, otherwise known as Professor Bear Society. How are you doing today, sir?
Thank you, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Well, it's an honor and a privilege to have you on here. One of the things I like to ask my guests before they come on here at the time is what got you started in wrestling? As they would say, what brought you to the dance?
It was my father, Herman Cade Sr., um, that pretty much got my entire family into it. Um, Him and my mother are actually from Alabama, and they actually lived in Mobile for quite a while. But this was before I was born. But yeah, we dad had a good passion for it, and one of the things we used to go to the local wrestling every week or so, and it was fun for me. And then I'm from Knoxville, and so when 605 came on Saturday, everybody, you either had to be quiet or out the house because that was time for Georgia Championship Wrestling. And dad did not play around. Either you were quiet or you was catching a beating. Whichever one you wanted, he'd give it to you. But most of us were smart enough to know to be quiet. And me, being the baby of the family, I always would just want to be around dad. So I sat and watched with him a lot of times and just soaked in the wrestling bug, if you will.
And it's interesting you bring that up because my dad has a very similar backstory. He watched a lot of Continental wrestling, especially with people like Austin Idol, Mike the Hippie Boy Ed, Cowboy Bob Kelly, and just many of those people like that. Just an incredible time for wrestling, as you know.
Well, that's cool. We actually here in Knoxville, we got Continental Wrestling too. At one point, they had it the South and the North, and of course, we got the North, but a lot of similar wrestlers wrestled for both. The Armstrongs, Austin Idol. Um, we had the Fullers, which were big, and every now and then we may get superstar um, Bill Dundee, just the bigger names that come through once in a while. So yeah, we definitely knew of those wrestlers.
Well, I know you being from Tennessee. I actually don't know. How much exposure to the Tennessee territories, or more so like Jerry the King Lawler, did you get to experience?
Well, funny enough, Memphis is 6 hours from Knoxville, and we didn't get any Lawler wrestling. Yeah, that and it sucked too because I would go somewhere else and then it's like, oh wow, this is in Tennessee. You know, must know this. No, but I did get chances to go to Memphis and watch it, and or I go down to Atlanta and watch it. That I always loved going to Atlanta because at one point they had a wrestling show that ran over 8 hours, and it did different territories. And it was so amazing because you got to see wrestlers that if they were in your territory and then they leave, you like, oh man, I wonder what happened to them. And you find out they went to a different territory. So that for me, that made me understand, okay, just because I get a particular wrestling in my area, there's so much more. And and it's a way to keep the wrestlers hot and get them over or booed, and they can make more money that way. So that I really did enjoy.
And well, talking about that, I'm sure you and I have you and listen to a lot of wrestling podcasts. I myself listen to Jim Cornette, as I'm sure you do as well, and he used to talk about how the wrestlers they would go on tours from like Mid South to Continental to Georgia to the Jim Crockett promotions to Tennessee and make that loop. And another thing that I know about what Jim Cornette said about it was, they used to do wrestling every single day of the week. And to me, that's a foreign concept down here, especially when shows only run on Friday and Saturday, maybe Sunday. And it was just a different time where people wanted to see wrestling every single day. They would rather be tired going to work and going to school as long as they saw wrestling that previous night. And I feel like so much things have changed for the better, but we've also lost a lot of some stuff with the societal changes and changes to wrestling in general.
And it's funny that you mentioned that because I was talking to someone else, and most times when I get to talking, um, I definitely talk about the territories. And to me, this feels like a resurgence of the territories because, like you said, you can go different places and wrestle and get to build your name up and build your craft. But I think, like you said, in some ways it hurt, but in other ways it's better because just like now, you can go on YouTube and find so many different territory, different wrestling companies. But the one thing for me, I always thought, man, why can't we just have something in one place that gives you a variety of choices? So that's where my company comes in at the Wrestling Society Network. And we are just wrestling fans that looked at it and like, man, we could do this. We can put people together, content creators, different podcasts, interviews, different things into one nice package.
The Diamond Mine Wrestling Academy is always accepting new students. With head trainer Scott Armstrong, if you want to train to be a wrestler, referee, or manager, come on down to the Diamond Mine. Don't let your dreams stay dreams. Turn them into a reality today. Because if you want to shine, you come on down to the Diamond Mine. Sorry to cut you off there for that commercial break. I was just coming up. Sorry about that.
So we we think we have a different package to offer. It's not just wrestling. We have documentaries, we have bios, we have cartoons, we have video games reviews, we have action figures. We actually have an action figure promotion that they would do with action figures. It is one of the coolest things you will want to see. And I know most people like, oh, no, they toys. Why would I want to watch? I looked at one, just planned on looking for it, looking at it for 5, 10 minutes. Hour and a half later, I had to force myself to stop watching it because I got so immersed and they were so good. So there's so much. Then we have our own 2K promotion. We thought about it and like, what would we do if we had a live promotion? Well, and we were gamers. It's like, hey, we can build our own 2K promotion, and it actually kind of exploded from there. One of our biggest views we ever got was over 20,000. That's around the world. So for us to be small and got that was like, wow. And all of this is from the creator, owner, and co-CEO Brady Owens. He started this back in 2018, and he started by himself trying to build. He quickly found out he couldn't do it by himself. So then he took a couple of years off, and he's like, I'm gonna do it this time, but I'm gonna do it a better way. So he put out a thing looking for podcasters. And I just so happened to see it. And I was like, huh. I thought about it for a second. I'm like, Nah, go sit on the couch with my wife. She was like, I told her about it. She's like, okay, well, you still sitting here for? Go send your interview in. I'm like, man, who's gonna want to listen to me talking about wrestling? She was like, babe, you would debate against anybody. Even if God came down right now, you would probably tell him, Lord, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I think you're wrong, and this is why. That's just the way you are. So I sat there for a minute and thought about it, and I was like, yeah, she's about right. I can't even lie about that. So I went back in, did my little interview, and an hour later, Brady hit me up. We had a nice conversation, and we've been rocking together ever since.
And you know, that's the thing about professional wrestling is that there's so much professional wrestling, you know, and it took me a long time to realize that, you know, through wrestling you've got your stone colds and your macho mans and your really, you know, badass wrestlers, but you also got your other baby faces that are like, you know, Ricky Morton and Brian Danielson and people like that who are the, you know, courageous underdogs. Rey Mysterio is another one, and you know you've got your professional wrestling, but you also got your comedy spots too. I showed my girlfriend a while back this carnival kind of show that had Gentleman Jervis versus Orange Cassidy, which was just straight comedy wrestling, and it's just. I wish there was a lot more variety of wrestling when it comes to it because there's a lot of people on the Gulf Coast and just everywhere who abides by the same kind of thing like Jim Cornette does, where it's like, hey, if you're not doing wrestling this way, you're doing it the wrong way when there is so many different ways to do professional wrestling.
Right. And I definitely agree with you. And that's what another aspect of um, our app is. There's so many different versions of wrestling. And like you said, there's no wrong. It's just what you like. So again, we have different type. We got independent promotions on there, and they are a little different. We have some that are just purely old school ABC. Then we have some that are just extreme. So we hopefully we're giving everybody a different taste, and you can see different things. And not only with the promotions, we have movies starring wrestlers. We again, it's wrestling based, but it's so different in their different psychologies and different things. So we got the game shows where wrestlers been on. We got a few game shows that you can see how well your wrestling knowledge is. So again, we just giving all this to fans in one location. And one of the things that we really are proud of, I think, is that right now we're able to do one of the things that nobody else can do. And I believe it tops everybody. It's free. We're giving you all this content, everything for free. The only thing you got to do if you have, we're on Google, we're on Apple TV, we're on Amazon and Fire Stick. And the only thing you have to do is look under WSN. And there you go. And we're adding more content. Like 2 days ago, I think we added 3 more premium events. So again, we're going to keep adding. We're going to start taking some things away. But again, it's for the fans to enjoy. And if you're good, I mean, again, some days I get it. Some days you burnt out, don't want to see wrestling. Then sometimes you want to binge watch. We are the perfect binge watch.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that because the show that I'm going to be going to on October 5th for Southern Wrestling Organization, the Edwards show that we're doing in Edwards, Mississippi. I wanted to try to make it like a pay-per-view length episode, and would something like that be good for Wrestling Society Network?
Yeah, it, we have some similar things, just like you were saying. It's not really pay per view, but it's a big show, and it has that pay per view feel. So yeah, I mean, definitely we could uh, talk about it, and as one of the things about dealing with a lot of independent wrestlers and stuff, because you don't, if you're not really into wrestling, if you're just into WWE and AEW, you don't understand that a lot of people just don't start and go to the main shows. They have to build themselves, they have to learn the craft, and they have to go to these smaller independent places. Well, why not get to learn them before they become the stars? Learn them and follow their journey. And that's what we are trying to do on a nice size scale. Not only do we have a wrestling app, we have a website. And that website is called thewrestlingsociety.com. And on there, we have a list of, we have a spot called the podcast room. And it's a list of different podcasts that we liked or was suggested to us, where you can click on their page and it takes you straight to their website. So you can learn about them. You get to watch and hear how far you may fall in love with one of them. Well, we just gave you a way to go to that site. And again, just like you said, there's different. So there's different types of podcasts. Some who are definitely just wrestling centric, WWE, AEW. They're talking about the big ones. But then you got some who talks about the indie wrestling scene, the one particular indie wrestling promotion. So you have variety, and we want to be able to show you that.
Well, how about your local indie scene? Have you been to a lot of local independent wrestling shows, or just, I know how things are with the world economy and everything that's going on. How have you been to a lot of shows as of late, or just been to a couple?
Well, I don't get a chance to, but I've been to a few, and I get to talk to people, and then I see some of the same people at the different shows, so I get to mingle a little bit and keep an eye on them.
I understand that completely because I only work for a couple of shows right now. I work for the main show that I work for is Diamond Championship Wrestling, and Scott Armstrong actually does the production for the television down at Diamond Championship Wrestling.
Which is funny. And it's funny, I didn't realize, and you may have told me, but my with everything I have going on, if I don't click on it, then it gets lost in the jumble of wrestling wrestling stuff. But I actually had sent something to them because I wanted to talk to them about maybe doing a partnership.
Of course, and I'll definitely let them know to get in touch with you and make sure to talk because I know they've got a lot of stuff going on when a promotion like that is up and running and all that. You've got people coming in there like they're the seagulls from Finding Nemo. My. It's like everybody's coming in. And also, when it comes to the legacy that Diamond Championship Wrestling has had, they have the Bullet Bob Memorial Arena down there too.
Heard of it, and I was I was super amazed and very humble that they gave Bullet Bob the name of the arena. I thought that was just great.
It really was. And when it comes to other promotions I work for one called Southern Wrestling Organization, the one I had mentioned earlier, and it's just a little indie promotion using a lot of local indie workers, but they're doing really good and really big shows, and it's been awesome to be a part of down there. And then the other one that I'm working for, All Pro Wrestling, that runs out of Milton, Florida. They used to be All Pro Wrestling Pensacola, run by a gentleman named DDG Calvin Sellers. His father was Tiny Tiswell, and they have a huge connection with a lot of the Samoans and the Armstrongs in that area. So they're steeped in a huge legacy down in Milton, Florida.
Yes.
And when it comes to wrestling all over the United States, you know, we talked about the territories earlier with the newest one that popped up was the King of Sports Wrestling, you know, however it goes. The Allied Independent Wrestling Federations, which was around since 1992, and the NWA, which has been around since at least before the 50s, I believe.
It was officially 1942. And funny enough, the only reason why I know that is because that's the year my mother was born. So that's the reason why I can hit that number.
And on that topic, is there any, you know, on the Wrestling Society Network, is there any like wrestling of that era that's on there?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely do. But again, you know, the goal for me is to highlight any good wrestling pro promotion. Um, Not that we can take every promotion, but we just like to put eyes on what we think is good quality and give them more, get somewhat of help for more viewers than just the local area, to help them see people to learn them in California. So, you know, it's just one of those goals that we have. And just for wrestling fans, because good wrestling fans will check something out, and even if they like it, they'll give it a chance. If they don't like it, they're just going to move on and try to look for what they can find. I mean, what suits them. But yeah, we're doing different ones all the time.
Well, while we are getting to the end of this interview, I want to know where can we find Wrestling Society Network? What social medias can we find you on?
Our main base right now is on Facebook, and you can look us up at, and it's excuse me, it's Wrestling Society Network. And right now we have over 3,000 members. So tell your friends, it costs you nothing. And if you're a promoter, join and promote your stuff. We encourage people to promote. We want people to see your stuff and you to get known. We love it. Uh, we also have a website again, and that's the wrestlingsociety.com. And quick thing about that, we got two pages on there that I really love. One is the Indie Wrestler of the Week. You can vote for your favorite indie wrestler, and they will get that honor. And the other one we have is Personality of the Week. And same thing, the ref, it could be a ref, it could be an announcer, it can be valet, it could be a manager, just to give them love and let people know, hey, we see your hard work and we appreciate it.
Well, before we go off of this interview, is there anything that you want to say to the people that are watching?
Yeah, we again, it is just being able to live a dream out like you. And man, I never thought I would get a chance to be in the wrestling business. Um, I just really am grateful and humbled by it, and always try to show respect and give out that love for wrestling, and hopefully it'll carry on through generation after generations.
And that's what I hope for too, is the wrestling business to keep going on and on and on until the sun goes out, you know? But once again, I want to thank you for coming on our show. It was been an honor and a pleasure. And here's to the future when it comes to some more interviews and some more conversations between us.
Um, as I always like to say, thank you for being a wrestling fan, and thank you because if it wasn't for you, there would be no me. So thank you so much.
Well, once again, been an honor and a privilege to have you on here. And until next time for our next interview, good day, good night, have a good one, everybody.